Good morning. I'd like to call to order the August 24th, 2017 business meeting. And Don Krupp, please take the roll.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. We have Mr. Nate Boderman here representing County Counsel, and Mary Rathke, your clerk to the board here this morning. Let me start with the roll. Commissioner Humberston.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Chair Bernard.
Here. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, as usual, we start with, oh wait, no, that's not true. We have a presentation, which is recognition of the 2017 NACo Achievement Awards. Don?
Great, thank you. And I'm going to invite Beth Byrne with our Public and Governmental Affairs Department up to the dais here to present this item to you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Beth Byrne, and I'm representing Public and Government Affairs. I'd like to share two award-winning projects that were recognized by the National Association of Counties in 2017. The first award was granted to Technology Services and Public and Government Affairs. The award for the Digital County Survey recognizes us as a county that is leading government innovation and collaboration. Clackamas County was ranked as number 5 of the top 10 agencies identified for the best technology practices among U.S. counties. Our Technology Services and Public and Government Affairs departments work together to ensure that people who use our website can easily access the information that they need, as well as understand the numerous services our county provides. By collaborating on maintaining the website, these departments ensure that we give our residents the highest quality user experience possible. I'd like to invite Dave Cummings to the front to give a few remarks about this award. We'll do a photo afterwards. Yep.
Okay. Great.
Morning.
Good morning. Is this on?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I didn't
Pull
see
it up to your mouth.
You know, it's a technology. You
I
push the
know,
button.
I know. That's why I have staff that can do this.
It was perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, we're pretty excited. It's, you know, last time we got first place in the nation, we got 5th. Even to get in the top 10 is really hard for us. We're excited about it. Mainly, they're pretty impressed with what we've been doing with our CBX fiber project and extending fiber out to the schools and other agencies, and just all the economic development that we've incurred in the county by doing that, and plus all the other wonderful things that we're doing with technology in the county. So we're pretty excited to do it. It's pretty prestigious in the world of technology, and we always scored in the top 10, and we'll do better next time, but 5th is okay. So we're excited about it. That's
I have
about
a
all.
question, though.
Sure.
Top 10 of how many counties?
We're in categories by population. Our category is 250,000 to 500,000, and every county in that category across the nation can apply for it. And
There must be hundreds.
yes, there's absolutely hundreds, and yeah, it's pretty exciting to score in the top 10. So I guess we're doing a good job here,
I think so.
earning our pay.
Thank you.
I know there's over 3,600 counties. I'm not sure what the number of the population that we competed with.
It could be
was, but-
thousands.
Yes. Well, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next award I'd like to present is for the Neighborhood Livability Project. This project was selected as one of the 100 brilliant ideas at work in the category of criminal justice and public safety. The Neighborhood Livability Project began in March of 2015 as a unique way to address the growing number of nuisance properties within the county. This project is a great example of multiple county departments working together with the public to create safer, more livable communities. There are numerous departments that collaborate on this innovative program. The departments include the Sheriff's Office, District Attorney's Office, Business and Community Services, Department of Transportation and Development, County Counsel, and Health, Housing, and Human Services. By sharing information and streamlining processes, the staff involved in this project have been able to address each problem home individually to find a fast and effective solution. In fact, since the application for this award was submitted just 5 months ago, they have resolved nearly 50 more nuisance homes, bringing the total number of properties addressed to 86. And I'd like to welcome Bill Stewart to the front to say a few words.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Bill Stewart. I'm a community prosecutor with the DA's office, and my partner here is Graham Phelan, lieutenant with the sheriff's office. Graham, do you want to first touch on things?
Sure. Okay, just making sure it's on, sorry. Technology. So this project began as a kind of an idea that started at the grassroots level with the field personnel working problems on the street. A core group of folks, including Bill Stewart, Kim Benthine, Scott Caulfield, Scott Seco, and 3 deputies, Karen Moss, Joel Manley, and Mark Nicolai. We're really frustrated by what we are seeing as problems with what are now called the zombie houses and things like that, where folks that were causing huge problems not only for the neighborhoods with drugs and paraphernalia and the low-level crime that goes on with them, but people unable to sell their properties because of these houses causing property values to plummet. And really, this became a really complex problem because we couldn't move these houses, which were primarily in foreclosure, through the foreclosure process. Because at the same time, as you may remember, there were a lot of houses coming back on the market as the housing prices started to come back up. So anyway, they formulated this partnership and started really talking together with each other. And as a result of that, we've started bringing in more community partners and more government partners, and became much more effective and more nimble at addressing these problems, not merely from just a law enforcement perspective, but most of these had a significant drug nexus, and that became our criteria for really addressing these houses.
So the only thing I guess I would add is the partnership has grown to include parole and probation. Code enforcement is a critical player in all of this. H3S is there, but specifically the social services, county health, behavioral health, and the housing partner have all come to help us. And we now work with the cities of Milwaukee, Gladstone, and Molalla, and we're hoping to do something soon with Sandy. And then we've actually had great support from some of the utilities of the Oak Grove area, the sanitary and water district since combined. We provided you a copy of our most recent report that has kind of the bar graph, and then it gives you a map of where the different houses have been that we've addressed. From my perspective, this is kind of classic community policing, community prosecution, and it's a great collaborative effort that we just want to continue to expand on, and it just becomes the way we do business. That's all I have, unless you have any questions of us.
I wanted to add one more thing, if I could. We're continuing to build on these partnerships, on these relationships. You'll please expect to hear in the next few months something about LEAD, Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion, where we're working, the DA's office, the H3S, and the Sheriff's office are working together on a project to try to address some of the issues we're having with the heroin epidemic in our county. And this is a way to kind of try to divert people into services and into human services, and that warm handoff, rather than trying to deal with this through the criminal justice process, which quite frankly can't always address problems effectively. These things are too nuanced, and we have to meet people where they are. That's what we're learning. So that's expect to see this partnership happening and continuing to grow.
Great, so I have a question. I know that to kill a zombie, you cut off their head or destroy their brain. How do you resolve a zombie home? If the problem is that it's difficult to identify who owns it, thanks to all the paperwork that's buried this. How do you identify who you contact, or do you? What's the process?
Sure. It's kind of like the way Arkansas basketball used to run, 40 minutes of hell. So you attack on a lot of different fronts, and you identify a point of opportunity to kind of leverage them out of there. Some cases, we would work directly to try to speed up the foreclosure process. Other cases, I can think of one that was just a real problematic place. Parole and probation identified 2 players that were in the house. They were just no longer allowed to be in that house because as a condition of their probation, and the problem got solved overnight. So each one's unique. Each one takes this collaborative process, and we find a way to do it. And we've had some ones that we've had to kind of scratch our heads on, but we meet monthly, and so we have all these players around the table, and we talk about the house and the challenge. And we've almost always come up with a plan of attack that brings success, whether that might be in 2 weeks, in some cases it might be several months, but we continue to work on it.
The house might remain empty, though.
Yes.
It's just that the problem within has been removed.
Well, and then, exactly right. And what we end up doing then, of course, is having them to monitor it. And so what we hope to do then is get the owner to sign up to the sheriff's exclusion program so that we no longer have the folks coming back in. And from a neighborhood perspective, we've addressed the major issue for them.
Yeah, and I have seen news articles where the house was finally sold and people invested in it and stuff. And I'm reminded of what Milwaukee did when I was mayor, and they put a sign on the house, and the people let them, that said, you know, criminal activity occurs inside. We're watching this house. Signed, Milwaukee Police Chief, and that solved the problem. But anyway, Paul.
Yeah, I just want to, I remember the home up on Risley, which kind of started this whole concept, just about a 3-minute walk from my house, around the corner and across Oatfield. But what happened shortly after that is when those people were finally moved out of there, they found other places, and it kind of like seemed to kind of explode. A lot of things happened during that period of time in 2015 or so that made this all happen. But I remember Deputy Nicolai, Moss, and Manley being very instrumental, and you all and Kim in code enforcement putting this all together and this whole nuisance deal. And actually what happened is that 3 houses from where I live, one of these homes nuisance properties started up, and it took a few months, but we got that resolved as well. And it's one of those that has a little arrow on the map there that was solved. But I just think it's just been a great effort, a great work. It's really brought the community together, and them kind of galvanizing around taking care of their own properties and their own community. And I think it's just been a really enriching process. So I want to just acknowledge and thank everyone, Sarah as well, for her efforts in putting together these forums in the community. It's been very effective, and I've just been a great connection with the community. So I just want to say, very deserving of the award. Congratulations, and I'm very grateful as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Martha?
Yeah, I also wanted to congratulate you because of my involvement in the National Associations of Counties at the national level. I was honored to be there when these awards were given this last time. And it was amazing because as a medium-sized county, there's not been a time that I haven't been to these conferences where Clackamas County has not risen to the top with an innovation award of some kind or another. And I think that is amazing, and I think it behooves us to get that message out to the rest of our county and to the region. We always get nationally recognized at every single event that NACo puts on. And also what happened this time, and I want to point out, Water and Environment Services is not here today, but we were asked to speak about the collaborative work that Water and Environment Services has done with our water providers, with the sewer systems as well as the drinking water. And I think Mary has something that I had asked to bring forward. Water quality management at the county level. Our Clackamas County, Oregon, our Water and Environment Services is highly featured in this case study as well. So we were asked specifically to come speak about that. And I was just the talking head because, you know, we're generalists, and it's a mile wide and an inch deep, but Wes folks really went out of their way to prep me. We're there with their expertise. And I've been with the 2 Daves, too, at other events when you've received awards. And you guys have to understand what you did with this community thing. You're not just changing it now here, you're changing it across the nation. Because when we do best practices, this goes to every county in the United States of America, rural, urban, and a combination of ours. So kudos to all of you, and thank you so much for your hard work. But people out there, constituents who are watching this, citizens who do this, this county innovates. This county thinks outside of the box, and we are nationally one of the counties that we are now a go-to county for innovation for the National Association. So,
Great.
okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so with that, I think we're going to do a photo op, right?
Yes, I'd like to do 2 individual photos for each award.
Okay.
So if everybody who worked on the Neighborhood Livability Project could come forward, please.
Things to do a photo op, I wear this time.
Yeah, if you could just stand.
Oh, sorry.
I ain't that tall.
All right. We're going to take a few right here. Look at me, please. Thank you. Eyes open. And another. And a third for good luck. Here we go. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to invite the staff from Technology Services and Public and Government Affairs to the front of the room for a photo.
Beth, you better get in there.
I see you back there. Hold on, we have one more camera. Squeeze in. Go, go, go. Maybe
Yes,
it's
we're
squeezing a little on that side, yeah.
side. Could Todd be in front of Mark?
Yeah, Todd and Mark trade places.
All right.
That's better.
Here we go, looking at me. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. And a third for good luck. Thank you.
Gotta feel good, Mr. County Administrator.
Yes, it does.
I like that. Just assume it's on.
And we only have one solution.
All right, so next up is citizen communication, and we have about 4 dozen cards here. I'd like to keep it to 30 seconds. Actually, we only have one, and Les Poole, please join us.
I could bet on who it was going to be. That's
You're not
good.
a zombie, are you?
Nope, nope, but I am a happy Clackamas County fairgoer.
It was
And
good.
hopefully folks heard what I said last week by chance at the fair about the significance of it and how awesome the fair is. You can get anything you want there, and you can meet everyone there. They're all there. And, you know, $9 to get in. Yeah, we can all complain because we had to pay for the parking, but, you know, if you want the fair, you got to pay for it. And it's just a great value, and it's a good event. Kudos to the county for providing the Eclipse sunglasses. And what I found is in a conversation with someone the other day, I just picked these up and put them on, and you can't see them and they can't see you, and the conversation just goes beautifully. So these can be used in the future.
Well, the next one is through Texas in 2024.
And by the way, I
Perfect.
have some if you'd like to buy some more.
Yeah, I'll bet you do. Good job by Governmental Affairs, by the way. I found myself more and more in contact with them. It costs a lot of money. Costs a lot of money to promote or to litigate or to do so many of the things they do. And as somebody that's been out in the community a lot, folks don't understand how intricate it is for the county and for the board to be making decisions and not necessarily be advocating or becoming a political proponent for something that you're really trying to make a decision for everyone on. So I think Governmental Affairs is doing a good job. The other thing I was going to mention real briefly is about upcoming issues. September's coming. We've got a library issue. We've got a constrained location at Park Avenue that we're going to be planning for the future, and what goes on there is going to affect a lot more than just the immediate station area. I know you folks have worked real hard to put together housing for the veterans. On that issue, I heard a reasonable challenge from Commissioner Humberston. Got your name down finally. That, find a neighborhood that would accept the veterans, the homeless vets. And that is a very reasonable challenge, and I know why you said it, because it's real hard to do. And I certainly wouldn't see it happening in a single family or conventional residential neighborhood. But the county's quirky enough, and there may be some places where, other than industrial zones, where we might find a permanent home. And so whatever we do, we have to be reasonable about, we're going to make an investment, we're starting here, yeah, we'd like to maybe end up over here, but the longer we're here, the longer we're going to be here. So wherever here is for our homeless location, I think it's real important that we address the issues that come along with that, and that we think about, is that location going to be good down the road? Winter's coming, and I certainly support what you've been doing on that issue. And thanks for your time.
Thank you. Well, with that, we'll move on to previously approved land use issues. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have the first item is a board order to consider the adoption of a previously approved comprehensive plan map amendment and zone change Z0067-17-CP and Z0068-17-ZAP. This is Rose Villa Incorporated, comprehensive plan map and zone change. And we have Mr. Nate Boderman here to explain this item for you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Pleasure to be with you here this morning. As you'll note, we do have several previously approved land use items here for you today, so I'll try to make it through as quickly as possible. The first item is an order related to a comprehensive map amendment and a zoning code change application for Rosevilla, Inc., affecting property near Southeast River Road. Specifically, this is a board order approving two separate land use applications, the first of which is a post-acknowledgement plan amendment of the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan to redesignate the subject property from low-density residential to high-density residential. The second application is a corresponding zone map amendment from low-density residential to high-density residential for the majority of the site, as well as a medium-density residential change to high-density residential for the remainder of the site. Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this on June 12, 2017, and unanimously approved, or at least voted to recommend that the board approve the applications. The board then conducted a public hearing on this matter on July 19, 2017, and unanimously voted to approve those two applications that I just mentioned. The board then directed staff to draft an ordinance, prepare the findings and draft a board order to finalize the decision. So the board order before you today will approve the two applications I just discussed. Planning staff has included extensive findings supporting this decision, which have been attached as an exhibit to the board order. So it's staff's recommendation that you adopt this order. Be happy to answer any questions you might have on this particular item.
Great. Do any commissioners have any clarifying questions on this issue? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the board order for the comprehensive plan map amendment and zone change Z0067-17-CP and Z0068-17-ZAP, Rose Villa Incorporated, as previously approved at the July 19th, 2017 land use hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the board order for the comprehensive plan map amendment for zone change Z0067-17-CP and Z0068-17-ZAP, Rose Villa, Inc., as previously approved at the July 29, 2017 land use hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
So this next item is a board order to consider the adoption of a previously approved exception to statewide planning goal number 3 and a conditional use permit. It's Z-0115-17-CP and Z-0116-17-C, Duus Solar. Involves a goal exception and conditional use. Again, Mr. Nate Boderman will explain this item for you.
Thank you. The second item for you today is the adoption of an order related to the approval of a photovoltaic solar power generation facility on land approximately 70 acres in size and affecting property generally located along Southeast Duus Road outside of Estacada. Specifically, this board order approves 2 applications, the first of which is a reasons exception to statewide planning goal 3. The second application is a conditional use permit for the construction and operation of the actual photovoltaic solar power generation facility on the property that I referenced earlier. The Planning Commission did conduct a public hearing on this matter on July 10th, 2017, and unanimously voted to approve and recommend that the board approve this application. The board then conducted a public hearing on this matter on August 2nd, 2017, and voted 3-2 in favor of approving the request as recommended by the Planning Commission and staff. The board then directed staff to prepare specific findings and draft a board order consistent with the decision that was made at that hearing. And again, the board order before you today will approve the 2 applications that I just discussed, and planning staff has also included findings in that board order packet, which has been provided to you, which justify and support the decision. Once again, it's staff's recommendation that you adopt this order, and be happy to answer any questions you might have on this particular item.
Any questions on this issue?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman. This one's a difficult one for me. It's one of those things where you're somewhat reluctant to do it, but because of the conflicting values that are involved here, normally I would be not pleased with doing something like this on farmland. The saving grace, I suppose, is that it happens to be land that has not been used for farming for well over 20 years, and that it does fit the overall state goals of reducing our use of carbon-based fuels for electricity. I hope we don't see a whole bunch of these coming forward, frankly, because I don't want it to become a pattern where we just essentially lose all of our farmland because we want to put up a bunch of solar panels. It's been pointed out to me quite accurately that on the east side of the mountains there's a lot more land available that gets a lot more sun and that is less arable than some of the stuff that we have in our county. So hopefully companies will be more encouraged to go there in that it probably would be more efficient. I find myself reluctantly accepting of this one, but I just wanted to go on the record with that. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Savas?
Well, I was a little bit surprised, actually, when we had this before us here a few weeks ago, and the vote was 3-2, I believe, to approve this. And can only reckon back last Thursday when we were talking about the placement of a homeless shelter. You know, basically, really, where do you put this? So, you know, if you were to put a solar facility and you did it in a residential area, for example, then one might say that you're impacting or limiting the ability to grow your housing. If you did it in industrial land, then you're limiting the ability for the industrial aspects to prosper and produce jobs and all those other things. So no matter where you put it, we're right back in that scenario, we're conflicted. But I was surprised because this board, when I first got here, Chair Bernard was the only person here at the time. I know Martha was previously a commissioner, but when I first got here, that clean energy was a big initiative by this county, and this is along those lines. So my curiosity is more of a question to, maybe my colleagues who were not supportive of this, is that where would knowing that clean energy and knowing there's a higher demand and hearing issues about our energy, our power grid, our energy supply being challenged, and being environmentally conscious, and knowing that, where would we put these things? Was there a better area that you would?
There definitely is.
Such as?
First, I think that Ken actually identified some of those. The other is soil type. We have areas in the county where it's really rocky soil, where farming is very unlikely. That's where I'd put them.
So zoned like what?
Well, it's the quality of the soil, too rocky. This is EFU. This is high quality soil. Yes, it hasn't been used, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be used in the future. The place I bought, a little piece of farmland I bought, hadn't been used in 20 years either. Now it is being used. Now I'm doing a little bit of farming, but I'm actually doing a lot of farming. It's just that a little bit of it is plants and a little bit of it's cows. But there are, and I'm not suggesting that these people apply. Pete's Mountain, for example, is not in the reserves. I mean, it's in the rural reserves because it is poor soil. Pete's Mountain would be a great place that it could be considered. But I'm considering, yeah, it may not be used today, but it could be used. And the quality of soil is high, and it should be places where the quality of soil is poor and farming is unlikely. That's where I would go.
Yeah.
And I agree I support solar power. I have two buildings I'm going to put it on this summer, hopefully. So, and we did it in the NRAC. We did it on NRAC, a small section of NRAC, but this is 70 acres.
High quality,
Yeah, but this is 70
argue the best quality soil, and we did it at NREC, and then also the first one that I was exposed to was the one near the rest stop in Wilsonville.
Yeah.
So who approved that one?
Well, we opposed that one, actually.
Okay.
But this is 70 acres. If you've been to and looked at the NRAC one, it's a small piece near the fence line. It actually helps pay for the running of the farm, the NRAC itself. So for that reason, it's worthwhile. Ken?
Well, just as a thought, and maybe just in general terms when we discuss these things with staff, one of the suggestions that I've had, and that somebody actually suggested to me, was that we ought to use our parking lots as places to put solar panels, in that you get two benefits. You protect cars from the heat, as well as have the opportunity to generate electricity. So maybe we can encourage companies that want to do this to look at sites such as that in the future. As I said before, I'm reluctantly willing to go along with this one this time. But I don't want to have us make it a practice, quite frankly. And there are alternatives, such as parking lots, that would be an excellent location for these kinds of things. So maybe that's something we can consider in the future and accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish without having to necessarily sacrifice arable land.
Martha?
Well, as someone who's been actually went to the Cornell Ag and school, and was an entomologist, pollination ecologist, and actually farmed for 30 years. I'm totally in favor of this. I see this as solar farming. I think it's a good use of the land. And as someone whose farm is now surrounded by undesignated land, which means, and actually with the city of Canby, having it be the only way they can expand, I would assert that that farmland as well is actually some of the most superior land in the Willamette Valley, and it will be used for development. And my hope is that eventually I'd rather see a solar development than housing. So as far as farmland, it always has to, at some point or another, depending on how you balance things, there's going to be farmland sacrificed. And my family made that sacrifice under the urban and rural reserves piece. So I'm a big yes on this. I think it's a good use because you have to look at it as farming solar energy. So I'm A-OK as soon as we get to vote.
Paul?
Well, just want to say thank you for answering my question and having the dialogue. It always boils down to a property owner willing to do that, and also in a business or investment to actually build it there. So things need to come together and converge into a solution, and so I don't know if a policy, I was going to suggest, but I won't, but I was going to suggest earlier that maybe we have some parameters in which our policy and parameters which we would prefer to see those things happen, so that we are making the best use of our resources.
So one thing, just one more additional thing. Clackamas County has been considered the breadbasket. Now, the Willamette Valley's the breadbasket. You can't eat solar.
Well, as someone who had one of the first, I've got to respond to that, because as someone that was actually farming and was one of the first community-supported ag farms in the Clackamas County, we actually innovated that. And if you look back in the history, we were the first and we were the breadbasket. But that's going to change because of the necessity of other things that we have to balance. So I understand that, and I hope it'll be a breadbasket with hops and not the other stuff for years to come, the marijuana thing. I'm hoping it's going to stay hops, but
You can't eat marijuana either. Well, yes, you
no
can.
offense, but that's good. I guess
I've been told otherwise.
I guess you can, but that's problematic. So you know, it is what it is, and I'm just going to be pragmatic about it. EFU land for certain uses is going to have to, you know, it's just going to have to happen. We're doing a good job of I think, maintaining the majority of it, but those decisions are hard.
Well, thank you for mentioning the marijuana, the one at, the cannabis basket, if you want to call it that. So, you know, hopefully this doesn't all go to pot, but.
All right. So entertain a motion.
I move we approve the board order for the exception to the statewide planning goal 3 and conditional use permit Z0115-17CP and Z0116-17C. Duus Road, the solar facility goal exception, conditional use as previously approved at the August 2nd, 2017 land use meeting.
Second.
This says solar.
No, you're not supposed to.
There's supposed to be an R in there.
Okay.
You're not supposed to point that out.
I thought maybe that was
I
the name.
didn't. I covered for you. I covered for you.
I thought maybe that was the name of it, the solar
Move on.
facility.
Okay.
All right,
I just
so
gave a second, I
It's
think.
been moved and second to approve a board order for the exception to statewide planning goal 3 and a conditional use permit Z0115-17-CP and Z0116-17C Duus Road Solar Facility goal exception conditional use as previously approved at the August 2nd, 2017 land use hearing. Any further discussion?
Could you repeat that?
Sure. I move. With that, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. This next item is consideration of a resolution. This is a board discussion item, and this resolution would affirm Clackamas County's commitment to exploring opportunities for transitional shelter communities. And this is an item that has been introduced to the agenda by the Board of County Commissioners, and my understanding is that Commissioner Fisher is going to address this issue and read it into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Krupp. I really appreciate working with my fellow commissioners on confirming a policy around transitional housing. As I've stated, as we've gone through this process, that I had concerns about zoning industrial land for transitional housing, simply because industrial land meant for industry conflicts with residential uses often. And we had a hearing where many people came and expressed that. In balancing the urgent need for transitional housing and at looking at the opportunity to create a pilot for our veterans, it's important that we prioritize what is the most urgent need for our community. I really appreciate, and I'm happy that Vahid is here in the back. He was wonderful in talking with me about this particular project, in that there has been a health assessment that's been done for this site that we're considering on 115th. And there's been a lot of work that's been done that addressed many of the concerns that were brought up in the hearing. That being said, my overall concern was that we were setting a policy of saying we're going to allow transitional housing in industrial zones. So with that vein,
Before you read it.
oh, I'm not going to read it yet.
Okay.
I will. I'll just finish and then you can talk. Yeah.
I don't,
Oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, now where was I?
No,
Oh,
go
my
ahead.
gosh. So in that vein, in just trying to put into writing all of the consensus that we have around this issue and in creating a resolution, in stating where our priorities are as a board and what our policy is that we, in general, we value our, the folks in Clackamas County. The interest in zoning industrial land is to meet an absolute urgent need with a practical solution. And so that being said, Commissioner Savas has something that he wants to say, and then I will read the resolution. And we're going to amend a piece of it as well. Do you want me to do the amendment now?
Yeah, let's talk about the amendment. and
Okay,
then-
go
yeah.
ahead.
So, actually, you had some language, so let me just proffer your language on the amendment,
Yeah.
okay?
So under the second bullet, the amended language will read, to develop standards of operations that include access to transportation, to social services that provide employment opportunities for transitional shelter communities. We want to delete the language for residents.
but you also didn't say so as to better when you read that.
So as to better, where are you
Where are
at?
you at? Are you on a different resolution?
Yes, okay.
You're on the wrong
I'm
part.
on my
So, yeah, I'm happy with that,
Okay.
that amendment. I just had an issue with the word residence, because that has a definition or a meaning of long-term, and this is definitely not designed to be long-term, and I don't want to put the wrong message out there, so.
took out residents of,
So just strike residents of,
okay, that's what I thought.
and,
Yep, residents of, that's right.
Okay, for me, I dropped the two
Okay.
and just says develop standards of operation. And I dropped the two on all of them.
well, it's designed to follow the word resolve. So if you read the word,
Resolve
does
to.
hereby resolve, and then, so
Good,
if
I
you take the word
suppose.
to out, then it says hereby resolve, develop. So it reads better to say have the two in
All
there,
right.
that's why it's
All
there.
right.
I think we could say resolve to, colon, and then I like saying explore, develop, explore, and ensure. Does that work?
Actually,
is fine,
that is what I have to do,
Yeah.
is to
Okay.
put two up and to resolve two and explore, develop. It just looks better.
Yeah, it does. It's stronger. Anything else?
So on the first bullet, so instead of saying, well, I'll just read it. Explore and identify suitable land for transitional shelter communities, including outside of industrial zones.
Just get rid of the word sites
Yeah.
and all. Did you want to
Yep.
get rid of the word all? Yep. Okay. Anything else?
So you want to take the word suitable out or available?
No, it's
You want to
just-
you want to take the word available out?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Instead, now it says, explore, identify suitable land for transitional shelter communities, including sites outside of an industrial zone.
Did you want to get rid of the word available?
because I'm not really sure, I'm just trying to understand why you want to take the word available out.
Well, obviously, it's available, or we wouldn't.
It just reads, it's make it simpler. I'm always less is more when you're drafting stuff. I'm okay with getting rid of the word available.
Obviously, it's available, or you wouldn't be looking at it.
Does that sound okay?
Suitable land for transitional shelter.
Any other changes?
So I'll just go through the last, all four of them. There's just very slight changes in one word or so. The second one, develop standards of operation that include access to transportation and social services so as to better provide employment opportunity for residents of transitional shelter communities.
Okay, so
I got it.
actually, that's the one me and Sonia beat up this morning, and so we came to an agreement on some revised language that she just read.
Yeah, she took out the word resident.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at, well, really, I think, so the third one, explore various options. So we're adding word various options for addressing critical housing needs for our community and seeking the support and participation of our cities, residents, businesses, community groups, and stakeholders. So we've taken out, and we've added various.
Yeah, but you took out collaborative, so I think, I'd like to
Yeah.
have the word collaborative stay in there. We do want to seek the collaborative support.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. The last one, I'm good.
Yeah.
And that's just cleaning it up slightly.
So who's tracking the changes, and so someone can read
My
them
only
back?
comment on your changes for number 2 is, I think it's important that, or not, yes, it is the second bullet.
I'm okay with number 2.
Oh, you're
because-
okay with as it
yeah,
is?
Just take the resident.
Okay,
like
oh,
you
okay.
said.
So you're okay
I
with,
was just-
With the way we did
the
it.
way we
Okay,
did it,
that's great.
okay?
So what are the changes?
I have them down.
Okay, so you can
I
just
can
read
just
it.
read it when I read it, and if I make any mistakes, then raise your hand.
Fire away.
All right.
Point of
thank
order,
you.
don't
Any
do,
other discussion? Oh, wait, we got, oh, wait, you're in time.
just a point of order, Mr. Chairman, our normal practice is to pass the resolution and then have it read. That's what we have done in the past since
Well,
I've
that's what
been
we're
here.
gonna do now.
I think now she's going to read it for clarity,
Yeah,
for understanding, for
no, I
mutual
think we
understanding.
should pass the resolution
Read it.
as amended,
Yes.
And then read it.
and then you read it.
Well, I want to
That's
make
our
sure,
usual
I want to make
practice.
sure the edits are correct.
Yes. Well, let's ask our clerk or our county administrator, or our lawyer.
I
How shall we
think
proceed?
for the sake of clarity, it would be helpful to read through the resolution now and then take action on it. That's what I
So
believe. you should do.
That sound-
Sonia, fire away.
All right.
All right,
Thank
that's
you.
okay.
Whereas the 2017 point-in-time homeless count identified more than 2,200 persons living in emergency shelters or unstable housing in Clackamas County, and whereas Clackamas County is committed to achieving outcomes that improve the safety, health, and prosperity of all who live, work, and recreate in Clackamas County, and whereas the urgency of the region's housing crisis has compelled Clackamas County to amend its zoning and development ordinance to allow transitional shelter communities and industrial zones, the Board of Commissioners also acknowledges that industrial land is used for industry and is often inconsistent with residential uses. And whereas Clackamas County's effort in zoning industrial land for transitional shelter is a practical effort to address an urgent need and not intended to remove or isolate our homeless population. Now, therefore, Clackamas County is committed to promoting workforce development and growing the inventory of industrial employment lands, and Clackamas County Board of Commissioners follows the success of the Veterans Transitional Shelter Pilot Project, does hereby resolve to explore and identify suitable lands for transitional shelter communities, including outside of industrial zones. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Develop standards of operations that include access to transportation, to social services, and that provide employment opportunities for transitional shelter communities. Explore various options for addressing critical housing needs for our community and seek collaborative support and participation of our cities, residents, businesses, community groups, and stakeholders in this effort. Ensure that Clackamas County's Department of Health, Housing, and Human Services has adequate resources to review and approve proposed operators of any future transitional shelter communities.
So,
Just one clarification,
Okay.
maybe it was just misread it. So the word following under the now therefore, you said follow, you meant following, as written, right?
I may have misspoke.
Yes, okay, that's what I thought you did. So as long as, so the language there as crafted is correct, okay. All right, just for the record.
I have actually two more changes.
Okay.
So the counties, I don't know what it is, live, work, and play. Recreate is sort of inconsistent with that. It means the same thing, but it is live, work, and play.
Okay.
So change recreate to play, just because it's more consistent with what we say all the time.
That's good.
The other is on the now therefore, Clackamas County reaffirms its commitment.
Yes. That's good.
And other than that.
Well, actually, I don't know that we've actually affirmed what? Where is it
To
affirmed?
promote workforce development and continue our efforts to reinforce our inventory industrial. Aren't we saying that?
Oh, well.
Yeah, that's in our
but we
strategic
haven't-
plan.
But we haven't done anything as far as growing. That's an action word, so.
Reaffirms its
So-
commitment to
I would
promote
say
workforce.
I would say we have grown it because the Workforce Board does it, as well as Community Solutions, and we
That's why I'm
continually
saying
fund
we're
them.
just reaffirming
Yeah,
it.
I don't have a
reaffirm it.
problem with reaffirming as far as in the context of workforce development. My issue is we're not growing the inventory or have done anything to affirm that we're going to grow the inventory.
Well,
of-
we're
of
committed to grow the inventory.
The Workforce Board grows the inventory.
That's what this, if you change the word, if you change that, it changes the meaning. So there is no current affirmation that we're gonna grow the industrial employment land base. So to say reaffirm something that was never affirmed in the first
Are you
place
talking
is,
about workforce or the
no,
industrial land?
the industrial land piece.
So if I may
I'm not going to
make note of is, if you read the title to the resolution, the title to the resolution says, "Resolution affirming Clackamas County's commitment to explore opportunities for transitional shelter communities," which is really the principal purpose underlying the resolution. And so you want to carry the flavor of that affirmation in the now therefore language.
That's why reaffirm makes sense.
Well, actually, the opposite.
I was arguing for the opposite.
The opposite. So,
Well, you're wrong.
so if we keep it the way it is, I think we're fine.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, that's good.
I don't have a problem with it. Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
So I'm ready for make a motion if you like.
Make a motion.
Or would you like to make the motion, Sonia?
Oh, yeah, she was going to.
I move we approve the resolution affirming Clackamas County's commitment to exploring opportunities for transitional shelter communities,
As amended.
as amended.
And I will second.
It's been moved and seconded to, I gotta find it, to approve a resolution affirming Clackamas County's commitment to exploring opportunities for transitional shelter communities. As amended. And Martha?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Emily Kepler, who worked on this all day yesterday. It really consumed most of her day. She did a great job. She's been the point person who has organized all of this and was essential in pulling together the internal work across all of our county departments to pull this together. And as I pointed out, I think in previous comments, that is unique and unusual, and I hope will be a model now for how we solve housing issues as well as other issues in this county. It was an effort of H3S, Department of Transportation and Development, Planning and Codes, permitting, parks. I'm probably missing people at this point, but everybody came together to problem solve across the table, and everybody that was involved needs to get all of our gratefulness that we will show you for the hard work that you do. We are as good as our staff. And they did a job here that was amazing. To the business community, I'd like to point out that we will be contacting you and talking to you. This is a pilot project, pilot, capital P, based on a project that has been very successful in Lane County. So we do have more work to do to get that word out. And I'm hopeful we will do it successfully and have the folks who have had some angst over this actually long-term become our champions for how we cope with the housing crisis. And I hope that this resolution is just a prelude to a resolution actually stating firmly and loudly and eloquently that we are facing a housing crisis in this county.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I want to echo almost everything what Martha said, and Emily's done a great job, and other staff have done great work in getting us to this point. Yesterday was focused on the resolution and working with Commissioner Fisher on inserting some language in there that was important to me, and that is that a lot of people want, and partly really because I got involved here in running for this position 8 years ago, was what I saw as a unfortunate trend deeper into poverty, that we put some language in there, which we have, that covers our commitment to growing the employment lands and in the industrial lands. It's really, really important because that's where the higher paying jobs are, and most of these folks that we're dealing with, the newly homeless especially, want the job. They don't want to be homeless, and they want to have the dignity of, number one, a job and their own roof over their heads and be self-sustaining. I think that's really important. So to just come up with housing, I think it's wrong for us to portray that that's certainly going to solve all their problems. It's not. They need the opportunity for employment. County doesn't create jobs, but we could create an environment of which jobs can be built, and our job here, for example, would be land, infrastructure, transportation, and all those things that make that work. So I appreciate everyone's effort yesterday and this morning to getting some language in there that addresses that as well.
Commissioner Hubbardston.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to point out that Martha was quite accurate in that we were somewhat remiss in our outreach to the industrial community where this shelter is going to be located. And so I would like to offer my help as a veteran in that outreach as we go forward. If I can help in any way, please let me know. I'll be happy to do so. Thank you.
And I will take responsibility for that. If we were remiss, it's the board's responsibility. Okay, I just want to make that clear. So I'll own that, but I will do a better job.
Commissioner Savas, after the meeting, had an opportunity to talk to some of those business owners. They felt more comfortable about the whole thing. I just want to add that, when Commissioner Fisher at the county fair brought this issue up, at first I leaned over to her and I said, I don't know that this is the best place to do it. It turns out, it was the best place to do it. We never have a conversation at the fair. We usually just do the business and move on. And I thought it was a great opportunity to open up some very controversial issue, can be, with the community at the fair. Even the animals heard. But so I thought it was great. And also, thanks for bringing up the conversation, because and one of my struggles and yours and all of us has been, where are we going to put these places? And like Paul said, there are a lot of neighborhoods that would fight this tooth and nail. But I think that day that we looked at it the first time is that we added Clackamas County owned property, which very much limits where those could go. We sold some land, or we're working on selling some land in Clackamas County that we could have put homeless shelters. Also, one final thing. I was told by the mayor of Happy Valley that they hadn't gotten any notice that we were considering this. We did notice Happy Valley. This is in their UGMA, not in their city, urban growth boundary. That we did notice them that this was being considered more than once. Certainly, it's published on the web, and there was an opportunity to look at this. But again, we haven't done the site-specific site yet, and that's yet to come. So I'm sure they'll have more opportunity to communicate whether they think this is acceptable or not. We also have parklands up in Happy Valley that might be more suitable to facilities like this that we might consider that haven't been developed yet. Anyway,
my last, in my light, that is. My last comment about this, and I appreciate someone offering the, Commissioner Humberson and others offering to go out and do the outreach, because this is not the, well, we're not site-specific, but I know that a lot of conversation has been about this particular site, which is not currently, at least the land, has nothing, no resemblance of industrial. It's really an open piece of bare land with a creek running through it. It's very, actually, kind of pastoral in a sense, so it's not, it's not the land itself is not industrialized. But the point is that it's not in the best location. It's away from services, it's not near transportation, and we need to do a better job. So on the theme or the note here about all of us reaching out, when we find the next site, and there's something more site-specific for the next, or relocating this one, that we're all engaged with the business community, because it will be challenging. It's already challenging. Myself and Martha spent a whole day out talking with these folks, so as long as we're all on board with doing that, that's great. But I think having all of us involved to know what's going on and what those concerns are in advance of a meeting would be better. So I appreciate that that support.
And I don't know if we did much outreach to the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce or not, whether we went to their policy committee and talked to them, because a lot of these businesses are members. And then there's the organization that we got a letter from, the NACo, that we could do some presentations to also. But anyway, with that, did we vote yet?
No.
Okay, and Ken left. I guess we could do it without him.
Just, it's the resolution.
Yeah.
We have an opportunity on the next one.
Okay. With that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. All right. The next item on the agenda?
Yes, so this next item is the reading and adoption of a previously approved land use ordinance. It involves the adoption of zoning and development ordinance ZDO 267, amendments to the comprehensive plan and zoning and development ordinance to allow transitional shelter communities. And Mr. Nate Boderman will address this item to you as well.
Thank you. As a natural follow-up to the conversation that you just have, I'm here to present on and recommend approval of an ordinance to adopt the previously approved ZDO 267 proposal, which relates to amendments to the county's comprehensive plan and zoning regulations to allow transitional shelter communities. These amendments will provide a pathway within the county's land use planning program for these types of transitional shelter community land uses to be considered for approval. The Planning Commission held public hearings on July 10th and July 24th of this year and voted 8-0 to recommend approval to the board. The Board of County Commissioners held a public hearing on August 2nd and by a vote of 3-2 orally approved the ZDO 267 proposal as recommended by the Planning Commission and staff with the following changes. One, to allow residents under the age of 18 in transitional shelter communities. To allow transitional shelter communities only on land owned by Clackamas County or one of the county's component units. And finally, to require the director of the county's Department of Health, Housing, and Human Services to consult with the county administrator when determining whether to approve the proposed operator of a transitional shelter community. Staff has drafted the ordinance before you today to reflect the board's decision made on August 2nd. Staff has also made a few housekeeping changes, most notably clarifying the sunset clause language that we discussed at that hearing on August 2nd to provide more certainty as to when these amendments may be repealed in the future. All amendments just discussed have been identified in red line form in your packet, and it's certainly staff's recommendation this morning that you approve the ordinance materials that we've presented before you.
I've decided not to call on you. I'm kidding.
Mr. Chairman, I stepped out of the room for a moment, and so I have asked the staff to record my vote on the resolution as an aye. So just wanted to make sure that's on the record. Thank you very much.
You ruined my opportunity to ask you, would you like to reflect on the last one?
You have to get ahead of the curve
All
here.
right. So any questions? We've had a pretty thorough discussion on this item. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we adopt zoning and development.
We have to read it first.
Okay.
What?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, sorry. Dan, ask the motion to be read.
By title only?
I move we read ZDO 267 by title only.
Second.
Okay. Let me see. It has been moved and seconded. Yes, so I'm going to ask the motion to be read, ZDO 267 by title only.
Okay, this is ordinance number ZDO-267, an ordinance amending chapter 4.
Point of order, excuse me. We actually have to vote on the motion.
Thank you.
Well, see, that's what I thought.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So I said, any clarifying questions? Ask that the motion be read. No? It says after she says, reads. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there a motion? I'll entertain a motion.
It's been moved
It
and
has been
seconded.
moved and
Yeah,
seconded.
okay,
So
so, oh, we didn't vote. I get it.
Jim, get a
All
cup of
those
coffee.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There we go.
It's been moved and seconded and approved. All right, next.
Ordinance number ZDO-267, an ordinance amending chapters 4 and 6 of the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan and sections 202, 602, and 1203 of the Clackamas County Zoning and Development Ordinance, and adding a new section, 842, to the Clackamas County Zoning and Development Ordinance.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
I move we adopt zoning and development ordinance 267, amendments to the comprehensive plan and zoning and development ordinance to allow transition shelter communities as previously approved at the August 2nd, 2017 land use hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the zoning and development ordinance 267, amending the comprehensive plan and zoning development ordinance to allow transitional communities as previously approved on the August 2nd, 2017 land use hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Right?
Okay, the consent agenda. Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of an intergovernmental sub-recipient agreement with the City of Wilsonville, Wilsonville Community Center to provide services for Clackamas County residents age 60 and over. Approval of a cooperative agreement with Clackamas Service Center and the Housing and Community Development Division for activities to remediate fire damage and support continuation of services. Approval of a local recipient grant agreement with Northwest Family Services for children of incarcerated parents and parenting inside-out services. And also approval of an agency services contract with Cascadia Behavioral Health for crisis respite services. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with South Metro Area Regional Transit, a department of the City of Wilsonville, for providing transportation services to residents living in the Villabaugh Community Housing Site. Approval of a subrecipient grant agreement with the Mental Health Association of Oregon for alcohol and drug peer support. Approval of an agency services contract with Columbia Care Services for residential treatment services. Under the Department of Transportation and Development, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County Service District Number 1 related to repair of sanitary lines on Last Road. Approval of an addendum to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Canby for grading, building inspection, plan review, and permitting services. Authorizing the disposition of Clackamas County surplus property to the Clackamas County Development Agency. Under Finance, approval of a contract with Conell Construction and Demolition Corp. For the demolition of the Doman Center building project. Under Elected Officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes, and a request by the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to enter into an annual operating plan and financial plan with the Oregon State Marine Board for the Clackamas County Boating Safety Action Plan. Under the Department of Human Resources, approval of Clackamas County Providence Health Medical Benefit Plan documents for January 1st, 2017 to December 31st, 2017. Approval of Clackamas County Delta Dental Benefit Plan documents for January 1st, 2017 to December 31st, 2017. Approval of renewal number 4 and amendment number 3 to the contract with VertiClaim, Inc. for self-insured liability claim administration. Under Community Corrections, approval of intergovernmental agreement 5451 with the State of Oregon Department of Corrections for the 2017-2019 grant in aid funding for community correction programs and the Community Corrections 2017 and 2019 biennium plan. Approval of intergovernmental agreement number 5420 with the State of Oregon Department of Corrections for the 2017-2019 Measure 57 supplemental funds for Clackamas County Community Correction programs. Under Public and Government Affairs, approval of board orders for transfer control of Wave Division LLC franchises in Sandy and Canby, Molalla. Under Service District Number 5, Street Lighting, approval of a board order certifying the 2017-18 assessment roll for Clackamas County Service District Number 5. Under the Development Agency, acceptance of a Clackamas County surplus property by bargain and deed and sale deed. And under Water Environment Services, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County Department of Transportation and Development related to repair of sanitary lines on Last Road. And that concludes today's consent agenda.
Any of the commissioners wish to remove an item for discussion?
Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman, not an item to remove, but under Section C, Finance Department, Item 1, which is Item 15 of our total number of items here, it's the Dorman Center Building Project, D-O-R-M-A-N, for the record. And at that point, I would move to approve the consent agenda with that correction.
Yes.
I'll second, but I do have a comment as well. So I second the motion to approve the consent agenda. I do want to just do a shout out acknowledgement under Health and Human Services, item number 2. It speaks to approval of a cooperation agreement between Clackamas Service Center and the Housing and Community Development Division for activities to remediate the fire damage and support continuation of services. Our Clackamas Service Center provides meals and clothing to a lot of the folks that are struggling out there, 3 meals a day. They do a great service, and they experienced a fire here a few weeks ago. And I just want to just do a shout out, acknowledgement to all those who came together to help them solve that problem and get them back up and running, and also to the great work that the Clackamas Service Center folks do and the board that has done for years, and the contributions of everyone in the community to provide some of those materials and services. So again, I just want to just acknowledge them for their great work.
Yeah, and the Clackamas Service Center is not part of Clackamas County. It's a nonprofit that does outstanding work, and so we have a great partnership with them. Also, I want to mention the Dorman Center. I cannot remember how long it's been. We've been wanting to tear that building down. It's unsafe. It's got to be 5, 6, 7 years. And finally, it's coming down. The next is to figure out what to do with Big Blue, which is going to be a lot more expensive to tear down, or hopefully we can sell it. Anyway, with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next is the county administrator's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a couple of items to share with you. You know, many of our residents in Clackamas County might not realize that the county owns the Stone Creek Golf Club. It's just a short distance up the road here. And I am happy to share with you that our golf course has been recently recognized as a certified Audubon Cooperative Sanctuary by the Audubon Society. To receive this certification, a golf course must be maintained with a high degree of environmental quality in a number of areas that include wildlife and habitat management and water conservation. Stone Creek is one of 18 courses in the state of Oregon to hold this honor. And courses go through this recertification process about every 3 years or so. So great job on the part of the folks who manage the golf course for us and the staff who provide the oversight for that management. Next, I wanted to say something about our Tri-City plant operator, Blake Raines. He's received a second prestigious honor in as many months. Earlier this week, Blaine was named the Oregon Regional Operator of the Year by the Pacific Northwest Clean Water Association. Last month, Blake received a similar honor from the same group, and this group represents clean water agencies from Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. So good job to Blake on that. And then finally, I wanted to share with you what I think is really an amazing turnaround regarding the financial health of our health clinics. And of course, when I arrived here, just 3 months onto the job, we learned that our health centers were undergoing financial distress significantly. And several years ago, the Board of County Commissioners made a significant loan to the clinics to help hold them together. And through what has been excellent financial management on the part of our staff, that money was paid back. But I'm now happy to relay to you that the clinics finished this last fiscal year in the black again by slightly over $1.7 million, and we have a very healthy reserve for these clinics of about $13 million, which helps us guarantee over time that we are going to be able to provide better care for our residents and greater access to those in need of health care services here in Clackamas County. The reserves provide what are contingency dollars in case something changes in the national health care landscape. So I just want to give a shout out to our Health, Housing, and Human Services Department and our health clinic staff for the great work they're doing and what I consider to be a very impressive accomplishment. I have one other item I got to share with you. Great. Just a reminder to folks who may be watching this program that next week and the following week, the Board of County Commissioners will be on official recess for the summer. And our very next meeting will be on the 14th of September, during the week of September 11th. Okay?
Great. Thank you. I was hoping you were announcing that there would be a PGA golf tournament at Stone Creek. I really did. I thought, oh, is that good? Wow, that'd be wonderful. All right, with that, Commissioner, let's see, Schrader.
Yes, that's my name. Well, I just want to start out with, I think everybody's probably going to make comments about what their experience was during the solar eclipse. And again, I want to thank our staff, because everybody was on emergency alert, because as many know, 51% of our county is forest land. And we have experienced fires. We had a lot of people here. We had a lot of folks on the road. So everybody was geared up for any kind of potential emergency response that happened because of the influx of people that came here to see the solar eclipse. And Dawn, I want to thank you for that, because I know that you worked very closely with our emergency management. And to my knowledge, we didn't have to respond to anything directly, which was very positive. My experience was in my local community at Lake Oswego, where I went to my neighbors to be on the lake, and we watched the whole thing happen. And it was not complete. It was like 99.6%. It was amazing. It became dusk-like out. It became hazy. And being on the lake, what we noticed was insects coming out, swallows coming out. They usually come out in the evening to get those insects, and fish jumping out of the lake, because they capture those insects in the evening as well. So it was fascinating to see that kind of animal behavior, and the shimmering and the shadows on water was absolutely phenomenal. And I did go home, and my dogs were a little bit nervous. They did some tearing apart, so I will tell you that it does affect animals, because they sense that something different is going on. And I got there before it was completely over and got them calmed down. And but it was interesting to watch all that behavior. Great event. I think it really went without a hitch. I think some of my other colleagues probably had some traffic to deal with, because I think some of you saw totality, I think. And yeah, so there we go. Next, I attended the Sandy Chamber yesterday with Commissioner Fisher, where we heard Bill King, the mayor of Sandy, and let's see, one of their state representatives, I'm going blank on his name, Johnson, talk about the state of the city as well as a legislative update. I'm traveling today to Coos Bay this afternoon to go to the ONC board meeting, and that is some of our timber colleagues across the state of Oregon, and I'm hopefully the project I've been working on with Commissioner Humbertson of cross-laminated timber, I wanted to bring them an update of where our county is on that in order to see how we can better utilize our natural resources in a green way. So I'll be heading out to do that. Other than that, I just want to make a comment that I'm glad we passed the resolution today. And I think with that resolution, however, in the body of it, when we talk about prioritizing this, Don, I think that our next budget cycle, that's really moving us to prioritize this, I think, with funding, additional funding, if not just continued funding. So I think we've committed to that. I think the next budget cycle, we're going to have to put that up as one of our top priorities in terms of where we put our dollars in human services. So, okay, thank you.
Great, Commissioner Humberston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just two things today. One is fair, which was quite successful. I know the first night of the rodeo, they had at least 10,000 people at the rodeo, and from what I've heard so far, it was one of the best attended. I can tell you I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was an excellent rodeo. Fair itself, attendance was up. The weather was perfect for it this year, so it was much better than last year when it was 3,000 degrees on the concrete. So it definitely was a great event. I'm looking forward to sitting down with their board once they have shaken out all the finances that they need to shake out and start working on the agreement between their board and our board. I suspect that will go reasonably smoothly. And then we'll be looking at how we move forward in terms of planning for a business plan, a master plan, facilities plan, and tourism assistance in promoting events at the fairgrounds. The second thing was that yesterday we had a very good day as far as I was concerned on the subject of cross-laminated timber. It was the subject of discussion at EDC. They were very enthusiastic about where we are and where we're headed, and we expect to see a letter of support from EDC when we meet with the governor's staff on the issue. In the afternoon, we had about 5 different environmental groups meet to discuss their support for this. At this point, what I believe will be forthcoming will be letters of qualified support, because they want to be sure that in the final analysis, what the harvesting plan looks like does adequately address their concerns in terms of environmental quality issues. As we tried to iterate several times, the important thing here is not just what we take out of the forest, but the quality of the forest that we leave behind. And that focusing that way is going to be beneficial to all. So it looks like things are moving forward on that front, albeit slower than I would like, quite frankly, but that's my own impatience, and I'm being guided strongly to be patient. Deep breaths, etc. But things are moving in the right direction on that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
No, you got a dog right there in front of you.
Oh, yes, we have a dog right here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is Zelda, a fun-loving young gal looking for an active family to call her own. Zelda has an exuberance for life and would love to adventure with you. Maybe you jog or hike and wouldn't mind if she joined you. Long daily walks would be really great too. At about 1 year old, Zelda is still working really hard on her basic obedience skills, but taking some training classes together would be really fun. This German Shepherd mix really likes attention and thinks it should all be on her, so she needs a home where she will be your one and only. Oh, and no cats, please. She's a bouncy gal and should only live with kids who are 13 years old or older. If you're looking for an adventuresome pal, come on down and say hi. For more information about Zelda and other adoptable dogs, please contact Clackamas County Dog Services at 503-655-8628 or www.clackamas.us/dogs. Thank you.
Great, Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, I just want to follow Commissioner Humberson's talk about the fair. So it's just so much fun at the fair because people are happy and they just want to have conversation. So I had so many opportunities to talk with our constituents about what's on their mind, and I came back with a whole list of things to follow up on, and I'm getting information and getting back to those folks. But just to share just some of the things, I had a lot of questions as a new commissioner about, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? And that came to me about 3 times in talking with different folks. And I said, I am nonpartisan, our Clackamas County Commission. And oh, come on, tell me. And it's, no, we are nonpartisan. In fact, we passed a nonpartisan resolution, and I want to thank Commissioner Savas for his leadership on that. And I said, and you tell me what pothole out there is partisan, and you tell me that, and then I'll tell you how we're partisan. But it built camaraderie, it built support, it built a lot of chuckles, and I really do feel that we are, in this very contentious world that we live in, we are an oasis of really working to solve problems, and I really appreciate my fellow commissioners for that. Other issues, which I know you've all heard about, but I'm hearing a lot about them, are issues for our roads, areas where the speed is too fast and there's areas of concern. There are issues that came up about wanting to understand how we are fiscally responsible as our revenue increases. How much does it increase? How are the employees increasing? What was it like in 1990? Why do we have, what's happening here? So being responsive and really explaining that we've had a lot of population increase. We have more tax revenue for property taxes because we have more people, we have more housing, and that means more demand on public services. So engaging in those conversations was really positive and I think helpful for the back and forth. The other issue that came up to me a lot was the issue that we discussed today on the veterans housing. There were many veterans at the fair that I was able to engage with and have really good, heartfelt conversations that really emphasized to me how important what we're doing is. I had really good conversation. So that was what was most compelling for me in the week, is connecting with all of those constituents in a very positive way.
Great. Commissioner Savas.
Well, my little eclipse story is that I wanted to actually throw my bike in the back of my car and get up as far into Malala, or up 213 as I could, and get my bike out and ride the rest of the way. That was my plan. But I left the house later than I wanted. So I left the house at 9:20 that Monday morning. I decided to get on Highway 99. I was going to get up on the freeway, and I said, you know, there's no traffic on 99. I'll just go down to 99E. I drove all the way to Salem, and I got to Salem at 10:14, and I pulled over, got out my glasses, and you know, you're in the path of totality. It was different, because I heard on the radio, kept on hearing on the radio, it's different if you're in the path. And indeed it was, because as I watched the sun get eclipsed, suddenly you couldn't see with your glasses on. You had to take them off. So there was like a minute and a half of the glasses didn't do you any good at all. And it was stunning. It was kind of interesting to see everything get as dark as it was. And of course I knew I was taking a lot of risk, that I probably wouldn't get home until late at night. I was anticipating all this traffic. So when it was over, I got in my car, and it took me an hour and a half to get home. But honestly, there were periods of time, because it was bumper to bumper from there through Woodburn and through everywhere along the lines, along the way, and it can be, but there were clear periods. But I did make it through, but I really thought that I would be stuck in traffic until dusk or nighttime. But I actually made it back in reasonable time, so that was really interesting. I did really want to talk a little bit about, Commissioner Bernard and others pointed out the Boderman Center. We're tearing down this building, and that was possibly a site for our search and rescue folks. And last night at a meeting, I was talking to one of our fire officials with Clackamas County Fire District Number 1, and the issue about trying to accommodate search and rescue. They need about 5,000 square feet to store their equipment, dry their gear when they go out and do these rescues. They're all volunteers. They have no pay, and often buy their own fuel to go up to save people, rescue them, whether that's up at the mountain or whether that is in the rivers or wherever it may be, that they're there for us. Holidays, nighttime, daytime, 24/7, they're there. And they've been asking for 7 years for some assistance in a building to just put their gear again and store their electronic equipment. They have a lot of radio communications and so forth that help do locations of folks, so it can't really be out in the weather. So this was a site that we thought that we could actually, the Boderman Center, a site where they may want to go, but it's not ideally located. They need to be more centralized somewhere, probably within the urban growth boundary. But some of their folks live here in town, so it's crazy for them to drive all the way up to the mountain and then drive all the way back if they're going to do a rescue, let's say in the Malala River or the Clackamas River. So I'm hoping that that we're committed to trying to help them find a site. I just wanted to let you know about that conversation. Following the last night was basically one of the community meetings, and Tuesday night was also a community meeting. Myself and Commissioner Bernard had breakfast here a few weeks ago and talked about what could we do to get them re-energized. And they did some community polling of what they wanted to work on for their work plan. And as me and Commissioner Bernard did meet with staff here a couple weeks ago, Barb Cartmill and others, and so the community was weighing in on that in the last 2 nights. There is a lot of interest, and basically what it boils down to, they're number one, and not by a little bit, by a long shot, overwhelming support for something to protect and preserve their neighborhoods. And I think that probably goes for almost anyone's neighborhood. They want to preserve the attributes of their neighborhood. And there is certainly overwhelming support for that. And I just wanted to convey to the board and Commissioner Bernard that another affirmation again, without a doubt, that is something of interest that they want to work on. If that means permanently impacting their property, to a lot of them, they were okay with that and was interested in having that discussion. So that's what I have. That's what I've been up to. And Martha had forgotten to read, so I'm going to read the arts and cultures activities in the county. The 2017 annual Dahlia Festival. Enjoy floral arranging demonstrations and over 400 floral arrangements on display. A talk on Dahlia culture takes place each day during the festival at 1 p.m. Stroll through and view almost 40 acres of dahlias in full bloom. Saturday through Monday, August 26th through the 28th, the field hours are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. The indoor displays are from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Swan Island Dahlias in Canby. And no, Swan Island is not in Canby, but that's where Swan Island Dahlias are. Oregon City Antique Fair and Vintage Market. Join us in historic downtown Oregon City for our 22nd consecutive year of antique, collectible, and vintage treasure hunting. Scour our 80 vendors, drop into great shops, listen to live music, and grab a bite or meal at one of the great downtown eateries. Free admission and family dog friendly. Sunday, that is Sunday, August 27th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Main Street in Oregon City. For more information about any event, go to the Arts Alliance website at clackamasartsalliance.org.
All right, great. My solar experience, I'd like to first thank tourism for having bought 30,000 of them. At the fair, there were people lined up to get them. I had an opportunity to sell a pair for $50, and we just happened to have an extra one and gave it to them. Now we have a great deal on them, on anyone who would like to buy some more. I understand that there is a collection. You might check the web to send these to South America, all ours, because theirs is like in 2018 or 19, total solar eclipse for the youth in South America. So look it up on the web and save yours and send them off to that group, and they'll make sure they get them. I think that's a great idea. As far as the fair, it's always great. We had a great conversation, something new at the fair. Next year, we'll try to think of something more exciting. In a week and a half, we're going to make an appointment to replacement of Ann Leininger's position in the legislature. In that case, it is a Democrat who will be replacing a Democrat, and that's the procedure is basically the Secretary of State sets up a system to do this. The Democratic Party for that district appoints 3 to 5, persons to be interviewed, and they did do that, and they selected 4. So, of course, those folks are reaching out to us to talk and learn something about them. I, of course, spent most of my time telling them what they need to know about Clackamas County. And then we will be having an interview in partnership with Multnomah County, while some people are in Washington who will be having to call in. We have more vote power, but if you're not there, you don't get the vote. So it counts to call in, apparently. So I look forward to that discussion. This is a personal thing. You know, I'm a farmer or rancher. I walked outside, and every day I let the chickens out. And I close the gate, and I look, and there's 2 skunks coming out of the kitchen house. And, you know, they don't hurt the chickens, but I figured out why we have so few eggs. They steal the eggs. The skunks.
Oh, good Lord.
Steal the eggs. So,
Egg-sucking dogs.
now the dogs couldn't get in the chicken house.
It's no wonder they smell so bad.
Yeah. Well, you know, I thought they stunk all the time, but they don't
What kind of
unless
farmer
there's
are you anyway?
rancher. Anyway, with that, if you would like a skunk, let me know. I'll pick one up and drop it by.
Mothballs, remember, mothballs.
Yes, but in the chicken house, I don't know if the chickens would like that.
So what does marijuana smell like?
Mothballs.
Maybe it was a marijuana plant I saw go in there. With that, we'll adjourn.